And you're in business. But let's go into one of the emails this week, shall we? Now, you guys know you can always email us at archonscorner@gmail.com. And this one comes from Steve. Steve says, Wookie, love the podcast. You and the other casts about Keyforge don't give much credit to Mars. A deck I have, the bureaucrat that checks giants, is Mars, Logos, and Shadows. When I get the 2 Dock Bookends and the 2 Quixos out, I draw a large hand and then key abduction into a key cost of 2. I've gotten it off a few times. It's fun to do. Keep up the good work. Steve.
Yeah. So Wookie talked to me about this. He mentioned the email, and I've got some commentary on why I think a lot of the, let's say, the perception of Mars is the way it is. So, and that's this. I think by and far, Mars is the most complex house to play in Coda, and most of the people that I hang out with and talk to agree with that. So what happens is I'm a new beginning player. I play the game a bunch, like maybe 20 times, and every single time I played a Mars deck, I lost. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of people's experience when they're playing for the first time, when they're going to Mars. So 20 games in, you're starting to become a little bit more than a novice. You know, you're still obviously new, and there's a lot of stuff you don't know, and you're starting to get an idea of the houses you like to play with, what's good, what's not. So you get this idea that Mars is bad, so you don't play it as much. So by the time you become an intermediate, 100 games in player, that perception of Mars solidifies where you think Mars is bad because you remember always losing with Mars, and then therefore you didn't want to play with it, so you didn't play as many games with those decks, which is kind of what I see when I talk to people about Mars. That said, all of the players that I play with on my team, each of us have at least one very good deck that has a Mars in it, because the top range of Mars is very comparable to some of the top ranges of other houses. And in many cases, Mars has a much higher top range than, say, Sanctum and Brobnar. Like, top end Mars is way better than top end Sanctum.
And I've said this a few times. Mars is that house is they have a lot of different things that they're good at. And if you get a deck list with Mars in it that just the cards don't mesh well together, it kind of just puts along.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get, like you said, one of those top end Mars decks where everything synergizes well together, it seems to have one common focused goal.
Yeah.
Man, Mars can be a beat stick. They have the opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, they just have some great cards in there that are absolutely bonkers amazing. Like Zizix in the right deck, Compod, Incubation Chamber, Psychic Network with an 8-creature Mars set that aren't all squishies.
I have a Psychic
really,
Network
really
deck
good
with
Mars draw.
The one deck I have, it's got Psychic Network in it. It's got, a Dominator, a couple Tunks, 2 Grabber Jammers. Those get on the board and stick more times than not, and that's a big pain in the butt. So not only do you got to deal with the Grabber Jammers, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to Psychic Network you and just have you capture 5 of your own Amber because reasons. That's a
pretty
pain
much
in the
any
ass.
deck with Total Recall and Key Abduction is a free key at some point if it has any archive at all, so that you can hide one of those cards. Like any decent archive with Total Recall, Key Abduction is they're top end Mars decks out there that blast the top end Brobnar Sanctum out of the water.
Yeah.
Now I don't think Mars can contend with like top end Untamed, because top end Untamed, like, there's a ton of them that are just win conditions. Straight up, this 12 cards is a win condition, almost ignoring the other 2 houses because of what some Untamed sets can give you. There's a few Mars sets that can do that, like with 3 battle fleets and Key Abduction, but there's like 15 in the world that can actually do that well. Whereas you want to look at top end Untamed sets that can set up a win condition, there's thousands